By far the most popular educational videos on YouTube are TED Talks. They are always interesting, sometimes challenging, and many of them entertaining, so it is no surprise that they have such a vast audience. But with more than 1000 TED Talks available online right now, one question immediately arises. Which are the best TED Talks of all times? And in this video, I'm gonna give you the top 5 that you definitely need to check out. And the first one is Amy Cuddy. Your body language may shape who you are. Amy Cuddy is a social psychologist who focuses in her research on, surprise surprise, body language. Her TED Talk is one of the most popular ones of all times, currently with more than 18 million views, and once you start watching it, this really doesn't surprise you. Because first of all, body language is something that we can all relate to and that is incredibly important in our everyday life. But secondly, Amy Cuddy is able to break down this very complex field of research that she's in into very applicable and very easy to understand concepts.
So we have this evidence, both that the body can shape the mind, at least at the facial level, and also that role changes can shape the mind. So what happens, okay, you take a role change, what happens if you do that at a really minimal level, like this tiny manipulation, this tiny intervention? For 2 minutes you say, I want you to stand like this, and it's going to make you feel more powerful. So this is what we did. We decided to bring people into the lab and run a little experiment. And these people adopted for 2 minutes either high power poses or low power poses. And I'm just going to show you 5 of the poses, although they took on only 2. So here's one, a couple more. This one has been dubbed the Wonder Woman by the media. Here are a couple more. So you can be standing or you can be sitting. And here are the low power poses. So you're folding up, you're making yourself small. This one is very low power. When you're touching your neck, you're really kind of protecting yourself.
If you want to learn more about body language and how to use it effectively, definitely make sure to check out Amy Cuddy's TED Talk. And I have linked all the TED Talks that I'm gonna be discussing here in the description below. The second TED Talk that I believe belongs amongst the best TED Talks of all times is by a guy called Robert Waldinger, and it's simply titled, What Makes a Good Life? Now, if you've been watching my channel for a little while, you know that I'm kind of obsessed with the topic of happiness, so this TED Talk was right up my alley. In it, Robert Waldinger discusses the longest study that has ever been done on human happiness. This study was initially launched in 1938, and now, after more than 80 years, it is still ongoing.
Since 1938, we've tracked the lives of 2 groups of men. The first group started in the study when they were sophomores at Harvard College. They all finished college during World War II, and then most went off to serve in the war. And the second group that we've followed was a group of boys from Boston's poorest neighborhoods. Boys who were chosen for the study specifically because they were from some of the most troubled and disadvantaged families in the Boston of the 1930s. Most lived in tenements, many without hot and cold running water. When they entered the study, all of these teenagers were interviewed, they were given medical exams. We went to their homes and we interviewed their parents. And then these teenagers grew up into adults who entered all walks of life. They became factory workers and lawyers and bricklayers and doctors, one president of the United States. Some developed alcoholism, a few developed schizophrenia. Some climbed the social ladder from the bottom all the way to the very top, and some made that journey in the opposite direction.
The reason why I included this specific TED Talk in the list of best TED Talks of all times is that it is such an incredibly relevant topic. We all want to live a good, happy, and satisfying life. The question though is, how do we actually get there? And to take hundreds of young people and track them throughout their entire life map all their good and bad decisions and figure out which decisions lead to an increased happiness and which one make your happiness deteriorate, is such a simple yet highly effective way of figuring out what works and what doesn't. So if you want to learn more about how to become happier and then also how to maintain that happiness throughout your entire life, then definitely make sure to check out the TED Talk of Robert Waldinger. The third TED Talk on this list is a little bit of a lighter topic. It is Tim Urban and his speech In the Mind of a Master Procrastinator. Tim Urban was already a well-known figure before his TED Talk thanks to his wildly popular blog Wait But Why. But his TED Talk that currently has almost 30 million views made him known to an even wider audience. What I personally really love about Tim and his work is that he's taking often scientific and rather complex topics and breaks them down into easy to understand bits while at the same time being very funny about it. So in his TED Talk, for example, he describes how the mind works and how it's constantly trying to distract you when you try to focus on a specific task. And the way he explains that to the audience is just hilarious to watch.
What goes on in the heads of procrastinators and why we are the way we are? Now, I had a hypothesis that the brains of procrastinators were actually different than the brains of other people. And to test this, I found an MRI lab that actually let me scan both my brain and the brain of a proven non-procrastinator, so I could compare them, and I actually brought them here to show you today, and I want you to take a look carefully to see if you can notice a difference. And I know that if you're not a trained brain expert, it's not that obvious, but just take a look, okay? So here's the brain of a non-procrastinator. Now, here's my brain. There is a difference. Both brains have a rational decision maker in them, but the procrastinator's brain also has an instant gratification monkey.
I feel like this right here is how a really good TED Talk should look like. It should be interesting, informative, highly entertaining, incredibly funny, and you simply don't want it to end because you have so much fun being part of it. And there are not a lot of people out there who can do all of that as well as Tim Urban in this specific talk. So definitely make sure to check out the link in the description below, go to his speech and have a good time with it. The fourth TED Talk that I believe everyone should watch is Hans Rosling's The Best Stats You've Ever Seen. Just like Tim Urban, Hans Rosling is a master at making scientific findings more accessible to the general public. He was a scientist, but unlike many other scientists, he was able to actually make data interesting. He didn't bore his audience with statistics and dry facts, but instead managed to use this data to tell a story and get people engaged in it.
Now, what has happened since 1962? We want to see the change. Are the students right? It's still two types of countries? Or have these developing countries got smaller families and they live here? Or have they got longer lives and live up there? Let's see. We start the world. And this is all UN statistic that has been available. Here we go. Can you see there? It's China. They're moving against better health. They're improving there. All the green Latin American countries, they are moving towards smaller families. The yellow ones here are the Arabic countries, and they get larger families, but longer lives, but not larger families. The Africans are the green down here, they still remain here. This is India. Indonesia is moving on pretty fast. And in the 80s here, you have Bangladesh still among the African countries there. But now Bangladesh, it's a miracle that happens in the 80s. The imams start to promote family planning, and they move up into that corner. And in 90s, we have the terrible HIV epidemic that takes down the life expectancy of the African countries, and all the rest of the world moves up into the corner where we have long lives and small family, and we have a completely new world.
And besides the fact that Hans Rosling was a master presenter, I love that he is actually telling a positive story here. I love that he tries to show his audience that the world really isn't as bad as we often think. When you listen to Hans Rosling, you actually get the impression that the world is slowly but surely moving on a trajectory that will eventually get us to a better place. And this is as positive of a message as you could ever have as a scientist, so I really wish that more people would check out his TED Talk. And so we have reached TED Talk number 5 on our list of best TED Talks of all times. And this one goes to Jocko Willink's Extreme Ownership. Now, Jocko Willink is kind of an unusual guy to appear on this list. He does not have a scientific background, he's not an academic, but I wanted to include him here anyway because I feel like he provides so much real-life experience. Now, Jocko Willink is well known to a wider audience thanks to his own podcast and appearances on, for example, Tim Ferriss's and Joe Rogan's podcast. But back in the days when he gave this TED Talk, he was pretty much unknown. He had a successful career in the army, and when he came back from combat, he made it his mission to teach people about leadership. And the sole reason why I included his TED Talk on this list is that he is so extremely qualified to actually talk about leadership and difficult leadership situations.
And then another SEAL raised his hand and he said, "Boss, this was my fault. I didn't properly identify my target and I shot and killed that friendly Iraqi soldier. This was my fault." And I said, "No, this wasn't your fault either. And it wasn't yours or yours or yours," I said as I pointed to the rest of the SEALs in the room. And then I told them that there was only one person at fault for what had happened. There was only one person to blame. And that person was me. I am the commander. I am the senior man on the battlefield, and I am responsible for everything that happens. Everything.
There are so many self-proclaimed self-help gurus out there who keep talking about topics like leadership without ever having made any real-life experience. So I found it really important to include someone like Jocko Willink in this list. As I mentioned, Jocko has his own podcast now, so if you want to check out more of him, then make sure to find his podcast on YouTube, on iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts. So that completes our list of best TED Talks of all times. And I know you're probably gonna disagree with some of them, and if you do, please let me know in the comments below. I'm always eager to find out more sources of information. I'm always eager to learn more. If you have TED Talks that you really would like to recommend and that you want the world to know about, then let me know down in the comment section. If you did enjoy this video though, make sure to leave a like and please subscribe to this channel if you want to get more videos about personal development and happiness in the future. Thank you guys for watching and talk to you next time.